Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. We are back with another counterpoint, and we've got beaming smiles on our faces. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Please make sure you're slapping a like on the video. We've got 2 streams for you today. It's a double whammy. We've got the debrief at 6, and everybody, obviously, you are tuned in right now to the counterpoint with myself and Joe Wayman, just Joe, being the fan channel. Make sure you check out that, everybody. Link is always in the title, or I'll put it in the title. That's absolutely shocking from me. I've not done that so far. His link will be in the description. Apologies, mate. But yeah, listen, everybody, just a little bit of a sort of structure on how this is going today. We're back with a debrief because Leeds have got a mass amount of games in so many days. It's all pumps are working, basically. We've got to move on. So we're going to be speaking about Sheffield United today, your Monday morning. We're going to be speaking about potential transfers. We're going to be speaking about how happy we are with Leeds United right now. Maybe a few little debates and discussions as well. Tonight on the debrief, we are going to be previewing the Watford game and what's to come. But before we get started, or I should say, without any further ado, I'm joined by my good mate, Joe Wayman, on the counterpoint for our sort of weekly show. How you doing, Joe?
Apart from being ill, mate, I'm good. And apart from being ill and deluded, I'm doing all right, mate.
Already kicking off in the chat, mate.
It is, man. People just, chat shit, don't they?
Well, we had the monetization for about 10 seconds.
No, man, that's not even a thing, man. I swear like a trooper on my watch-alongs, so I don't know what that's about.
It's weird, isn't it? Because when you upload a video, like YouTube puts you through those things, doesn't it? It's like, is it sensitive content? So I don't know whether or not it's actually just when you upload like a standard video. I don't know, to be honest. I've no idea. But mate, I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather, but talk to me about the Sheffield United game. I've literally done my best not to watch any of your post-match because I want to get it fresh. I want to get it raw now. I want you to tell me exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling about Leeds United.
Yeah. I feel a little bit vindicated because I feel this was always coming. I think a lot of, say, the naysayers, if you like, were very much, we've not beaten anyone in the top 6. I would arguably say now we've probably beat our closest rival over the course of the season. I think they will still come good, and I think they'll still be in with the hunt of the top 2 for sure. I think the performance, Connor, was the best this season. I think we can get down into personnel, I think, to a man. They were all great. There's a few maybe missteps, Aaronson finishing, etc., stuff like that. But I thought we were great, mate. Look, at half time, I still was worried, even though we dominated, because you think, well, it takes his a sucker punch, and Sheffield United are a team that could provide us with that. But if you think about what we spoke about their midfield and some of the personnel, O'Hare, for example, nowhere near it. I don't remember him playing apart from when he got bodied by Ramazani. Hamer was off it. Kiefer Moore was shocking. Determined to give us a goal at one point as well. I think the best 2 players for them were the centre-backs, Suter and Ahmed Hodzic, and that tells you all you need to know, really. I still thought they were quite good. And great to see us score from a set piece. I heard on Leeds that, and I think it's a great point. And I know you've spoken about fine margins and the top teams scoring from set pieces. Had we not scored from that set piece, we might not have won the game, bro. It might have ended 0-0. So it's important that we need to continue to improve on them situations for me, and continue to take as many increment gains as we can. So overall, bro, amazing. And to think now we've played all the best teams, you would say, on current form, where the land lies in the league, and we're 3 points off the top with the fixtures about to change, which we'll talk about tonight on the debrief, of course. We're cooking, aren't we, mate? Really, come on. Like, there's nothing to be negative about, I don't think, right now. And
no, mate. I think you make all your points. I think this is a problem with the counterpoint, isn't it, mate? We need to start changing the name a little bit, to be honest, this season. I think we've disagreed maybe once or twice, but it's there's a little bit of a discussion that I want to get into a little bit later on, but I think we've got to give them the flowers. Interesting, Joe, how they went to a back 4. I thought that was, I was reading it out at the start and I was looking at Harrison Burrows and how they released the lineup. I was like, so Harrison Burrows is right wing. I was like, I was like, yeah, Shaq in there as well. And I was like, how's this working? And then somebody in the chat went, no, Connor, it's a back five. And I thought, ooh, okay. So they've switched it up because obviously they've been playing a back four, haven't they? But Leeds, obviously, we know build up. We've spoken about it with the 3-1-6 this season, which, against Burnley with Koleosho on that transition, Joe, that counter-attack, it was a problem, wasn't it? I was really surprised that he didn't start with Raksaki. That was probably the biggest surprise for me. That it felt like they came for the point, didn't they?
Yeah, and maybe that is something to maybe temper the positivity a little bit, is that Sheffield United got it so wrong, or arguably that Wilder got it so wrong. I mean, his reasoning for playing that way was looking at how Southampton beat us, and I thought that was very poor. I mean, we gave him so much praise, Connor, in the lead up to this game about shoot on sight and he'll do this sort of thing, and he got it so wrong. Like, because he's gone with a tactical setup to mirror a team that beat us last season and were different and have a different mid. Do you see what I'm saying? So I just think Wilder did get it so wrong, so maybe we can't glaze it too much because of that. And had he have gone with his normal lineup, maybe they'd have caused us. I know they'd have caused us much more problems in transition, but therefore we might have created more as well, because we were by far the better side, and Wilder said as much. But you do make a good point in terms of how he set it up. Okay, it probably was the right thing in his mind, but when the actual game developed, and he kept it like that until we scored, right? And then he was like, right, now I'll throw caution to the wind, if you like, and then we get the second. So yeah, he did get it so wrong, and I was quite surprised at that.
Yeah, me too. I think it was interesting as well when Gilchrist came on, and he just, I mean, I know like we went down that side, didn't we, for the second, but I just thought he looked a little bit more accomplished on the board. I think a lot of Blades fans were a little bit confused as to why he didn't start. Obviously, we were speaking about him in the build-up as well, but I first sort of 15 minutes, we were a little bit worried. I thought they were pressing on us really well, squeezing us up, and we didn't seem to. I thought Firpo in particular, every time he got the ball on that left-hand side, maybe from Strauch or Meslier, they were really pressing his touch. And I thought every single time he was very cautious. And I thought, Joe, because they were pressing in the midfield, and sometimes Firpo would just nudge that ball into the middle when we're trying to bypass that press. I thought if that ball isn't perfect, they're almost, it's almost like 4 versus 4 or 4 versus 3, because we push so many high when we're in that, that build-up phase. So that first 10, 15 minutes, Vinny Souza was getting about as well a little bit. Were you a little bit nervous?
Yeah, of course. I thought apart from that, they didn't really do much after that, bro. So hang on. I'm sorry, bro. That came on there. So outside of that, they didn't really do much, and Sunderland were the same. Yeah, they had a good start to the game as well. So maybe that's something Leeds United need to look at moving forward, because that's two games on the spin that's happened. But ultimately, we were able to wrestle back that dominance, weren't we? And yeah, I thought, we talk about their personnel. They were so poor, weren't they? Like, O'Hare was so bad. And I was one that said, I wouldn't mind bringing him in. And, Hamer again. And maybe that was due.
Is he overweight? Is he overweight?
He's a big lad, isn't he? He's a bit stocky, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't know if that'd fly at Leeds. And that's even under Farke. I mean, under Bielsa, it definitely wouldn't have stood, would it? But he just looks a bit like on the turn. I was thinking, especially as a winger, Joe, where they're playing him, it's like they've got to get rid of Callum O'Hare. I was speaking to Jimmy, and I know you know Jimmy as well. And I was speaking to him beforehand, and he was just saying,
it's gone very quiet, Jimmy, by the way, because Jimmy's been in all my videos going, and now all of a sudden I can't see him anywhere.
He's gone. He's vanished. Yeah, it was funny after the game. I think he did one of his like little shows or whatever, and he said, "I'm not going to be watching Connor or Just Joe. That's it. That's me." So so I just thought to myself, I thought they're completely sacrificing. For me, Hamer or Hamer, however you want to pronounce it, being in the middle, and O'Hare is very in and out, isn't he? And I think that's the complaints of a lot of them this season with Callum O'Hare. He's very, very in and out, and I mean, we've got to get it. We've got to get into it, Joe, as well. We don't just want to talk about Sheffield United as much, but we were said on the counterpoint, weren't we, mate, where it was like, you're getting maybe O'Hare and Hamer in and behind our midfield, mate. Look, I've got it's not even a fact that, like, you know, well, it's all Connor said Rothwell. It's not even that, mate. I'm just so happy at how. No, but I'm not. But it's not that. Like, I couldn't. If it was Gruev, if it was Ampadu, and they'd done that against Sheffield United with all of that, you know, Arblaster, Vinny Souza, Callum O'Hare, Harmer, I'd have turned around and gone, do you know what? Fair frigging play. That was an unbelievable performance. But those two, mate, to say they've come in as rotation, I mean, how good were they? How good were they the other night, mate?
So impressive, mate. And, you know, I'll continue to admit where I was wrong when it comes to Joe Rothwell. I think what really impressed me, and people did tell me this, and we saw flashes of Gruev driving into space, and that was my point in saying, well, he's doing that, but Rothwell does it to a more accomplished level because obviously that's his natural position. I think the most impressive thing for me was watching Rothwell running into them spaces, and then that then draws a defender out, right? A defender has to make a decision. Do I come out and meet him, or whereas prior to that, we're going left, right.
Yeah.
But he was saying, I'm seeing that space now and I'm attacking that space. And Tanaka, I mean, he's different gravy, isn't he? You know, he takes, like, I was calling him the Japanese Modric. Just in terms of, like, how press resistant he is, as well as insane. Both of them, actually, to be fair. You know, they just take that touch that takes them away from a midfielder and opens up spaces for passes. So yeah, mate, I mean, to think that they were perceived second choice and they're as good as they are, crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So I do have a counterpoint for you, though.
Go on, fly one at me.
I disagree with your sentiment online about them keeping their place. And I read some of the comments in response, and some are saying, well, we know our good friend Lord Ash is saying Gruev's done out here and he's on the... I'm like, come on, man, we've seen it for a couple of games. Relax, man, relax. But that is my counterpoint. And I do think, I mean, I guess I'll ask you the question. If we do bring in Gulavogi or someone of that ilk, how does that work? Because he clearly wants a more defensive-minded player alongside that, or do you think he'll continue with Tanaka doing that? Because he did it to a quality level as well. Like, what is the future for Leeds in midfield if everyone's fit, bro?
Yeah, mate. I love the conversation because, like, obviously, I mean, I don't think you got. I mean, you'll have read my responses, mate, and it was. I don't know if you've noticed, Joe, but I've gone sort of pretty quiet. I've come off Twitter a little bit, and that was probably.
Bro, I don't tweet anymore, man.
Yeah,
I've got privacy and that. As soon as I seen that block thing, nah, not for me no more.
Yeah, mate. I started doing it and I tagged Jimmy in a preview, and he's like, "Mate, I can't retweet anything you've put." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it like blocked out the retweets. I was like, "I need Joe to show me how to do this. I'm not sure how to do it." But yeah, it is one of those where, like, it was more just like conversation, really. But you know what Twitter's like, you put something out there and it's like it's murder in it if people disagree with you. But I found it interesting. And then actually, you're right. A lot of the other comments and it was a lot of the lads who I follow on Twitter who I think make largely good points, and a lot of them disagreed with what I was saying, you know, which is fair enough. I just look at I think, I don't know if you've caught me saying it, mate. You might not have done, but Norwich, Sunderland and Sheffield United, I think those three have been maybe our toughest tests, sort of on the back foot as well. Like you've quite rightly said, and Brownie and a lot of people in here. Burnley was a different test. I don't think they came to really play at all. I mean, you know, when you got our centre forward trying to draw the centre back out and the centre back didn't even follow him, you know, at least we got Harry Suter following Peru everywhere and you know, putting fouls up in our half and stuff like that. But the overriding point is, mate, like, I think we've played the three teams of which I'd look at, and I think Norwich are going to be right up there, by the way. And I look at them and I go, do you know what? That's for those two to put in the performance of which I've and I know you had a little bit with Job and getting him behind. I still would say I still think we'd have given up chances, and I still think we gave up chances last season. I know the complexion of the side's completely different, but with Job getting in behind our midfield, even when we had defensive partnership on the pitch at that point at the Stadium of Light, and he scored, didn't he? So I just think when you look at those two, they've almost got to like telepathy. They've got like so much synergy right now that it doesn't even look like they're talking to each other on the pitch. They just know. It's almost like they've got a rope between them, Joe, like an invisible rope of which it's like, you go, I'll stay. You, and they just seem accomplished. I was looking at Rothwell at the weekend. He just seems to be getting better and better. Like any time. Like there was a couple of times where Arblaster got the ball and Rothwell's just smashing into him and he's not able to get past him whatsoever. And I don't know. I just look at the balance of our midfield now. And I was similar to you, mate. I was going into it and thinking there's got to be a defensive profile next to one of them. There's got to be. But I'm just looking at it now and I'm like, I don't see us as weaker at all. And I think we've played 3 really, really, really tough games in there. 3 games in. And you look at Tanaka, mate, coming home. What, 48 to 60 hours, Kit, like, before he was playing for Japan and stuff, 90 minutes. I just think, like, I'm looking at them both and they seem to be developing in the role, mate. And I was almost saying on Twitter, I was like, Ampadu comes back in, but I don't know. I don't want to break that up. And do you know what as well, Joe? We're talking about switches and we're saying, I know yourself, you saying that when Gruev was in and stuff like that, there was switches. I think the other night, mate, they were all
different.
They were just mavericks on the ball, mate, weren't they? They were just getting the ball out the feet, both of them, switching it so much. And I just thought it gave us so much. It turned.
It was quicker as well, wasn't it? It really was quicker.
Yeah. And I think
saw that.
I think as soon as there was one moment, I don't know if you remember, but Tanaka had the ball in the midfield. And it was when Ramazani megged an L and then smashed it, and it was a good save from Cooper. But I thought that moment on around 16, 17 minutes was when Sheffield United thought, oh shit, we've got to fall back a little bit here because that boy can pick a pass if he's got space, just proactive, put it in the middle. And I just think there's a bit of a difference from us going lateral and a little bit safe, handbrake on, to when those two were in there. And they can vary it, Joe, because they were going lateral, they were going back.
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah,
they were switching it up a little bit more.
Yeah. Much more verticality, as my good friend Andrea would say. It's the buzzword, isn't it? Verticality.
But you look.
Of course.
Ampadu is, I'll probably say my favourite Leeds player. And this is why, like, when I'm talking about it, it's a bit weird. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird scenario, mate, really.
Yeah, I think Ampadu would come back in.
Yeah, I do. I think he'll come back in.
Yeah. And so he should. He's the captain of the side, etc. But we don't know how long this partnership could look. At the end of the day, when Ampadu went back into centre back and all that, like, Farker won't make changes for the sake of my captain's back. He won't do it. I don't think he will if Leeds are performing to this level. And again, we'll speak on this later tonight, but as the fixtures start to change, you would hope that the games will become easier as well. So therefore we'll have more dominance. So he might not change it. Who knows? But I just was, I guess, when people are so ready with the quickness to say, right, this is it now. It's like, well, hang on a minute, we need to wait. And like you've said and admitted yourself, Ampadu's different gravy, isn't he? So, it might even mean changing the formation slightly. And we don't know what the future looks like, of course. But for the here and now, when you consider the games we've got through and where we are in the league and how many points off the top we are. Look, I'll ask you, Connor. I think a lot of this season in the early parts, and I sort of understand people's trepidation about the season and stuff. And even still, the last, I guess, fallback for those that were still questioning was, we haven't beaten anyone in the top 6. Yeah. I think Farker needed this. I think Leeds United needed a statement win, because that's what
I was saying it.
Yeah, it was a statement win.
Yeah.
And now people, I think, are more relaxed. And probably, like we were getting one loss or a draw and people were going, it's terminal, get him gone. I think now we could win a couple and lose one. And I don't think the reaction will be as bad online, because they know now, having seen 10 games now and, one loss, couple of draws, but, good performances. I think everyone's just gone, we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be all right.
I think this last 3 games have been massive. I think like, we were coming out of it and saying, look, there's 2 points out of 6, Norwich and Sunderland, but you've got to take it into context. Like, Norwich was, we'd just been hit with big news. Gruev then goes off. You're tapering that midfield up. And then you're going into the game, Verba, we've been told earlier on that he's offered for surgery and all this sort of stuff. So the defense is looking lax. And I I don't know, mate. I was looking. I've looked at the Sunderland game, and that was big as well. You can't look at Farke for that. That is 75, 80 minutes of dominance, complete dominance, of which they'd admit. And the keepers.
It should have been 7 in 3, 7 points.
Mate, that'll stick with us till the back end of the season. Because you should be beating, so at that time the best team in the league, and you deserved it. So that is still bothers me that, but. Going and beating Sheffield United as well. So there's context there. You've gone and, for me, dominated the best team in the league at the time and should have won the game if it wasn't for a horror show individual error. And then you've played another so-called best team in the division. And I'll be honest, mate, if I was Sheffield United coming out of that, I'd be quite embarrassed at the level difference between the two teams. I thought we were quicker. We had way more quality. We're bringing internationals off the bench. The midfield, which was rotation, just completely outclassed their middle parting as well. If I was Sheffield United, I'd be looking at that. And you look at a lot of the reactions afterwards, mate, and they're just saying, "Yeah, Leeds are going to win the league." So we're not too disappointed by that, and that's a massive indictment on the club, I think.
Yeah, massive. I mean, even Wilder had to sort of fall on his sword, didn't he? And in the lead up to it, and I think a lot of it was probably around the George Baldock scenario, how he tempered everything, and I appreciated that from him. But I do think as well, like even after he said, I don't think anybody will finish above Leeds. They're much better. So
I think he didn't even say that when we beat them with like Rafinha and all this sort of stuff. Did he?
Exactly.
Didn't really say that, but he was very, very much like, "Oh, yeah, they're good."
Yeah. Different gravy. I think we just strangle the opposition, smother them and strangle them. Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. It's next level in terms of how dominant we are. Because even in the game that we lost in the league against Burnley, we were still dominant, dominant, and they came off that pitch probably going, "Fucking hell, we've had a game there." Even though we've really had a game. So I just hope. Because this is where, and this is just, I don't want to do too much of looking into the future, but it's a different kind of pressure now for Leeds and the players, because they now go into games expected to win. Sunderland away is challenging. Norwich away is challenging, Sheffield United at home, challenging. The atmosphere goes up. It's now on as well. Like the atmosphere came across amazing on Friday. And having spoken to people that were there, they all said it was really good. We heard all the old chants coming out, which you can tell they were loving it. But then there's also an expectancy in games that the atmosphere drops now because Leeds, we should win. We're waiting for a goal. So the players have to raise their game. Do you see what I'm trying to say in terms of
you going into it feels very Man City at relative level, doesn't it? It's very much.
Because we're going to we should win. And that comes, I don't want the players going out against the Watford, against other teams that are coming up. Oh, well, we've got this in the bag. So it becomes a different kind of pressure,
Yeah, it does. I think this is the best squad we've had. You look at, I want to talk about Ramazani, Joe. And he's reminding me of a certain Dutchman who we had last season, to be honest. His movement, his low centre of gravity. I love how aggressive he is and tenacious he is, especially when defending, which I think is glossed over. I mentioned it on the stream. When Rafa first came in and everyone was a bit quiet on it, we're still talking about Clake and Bamford who got 17 goals and Rodrigo was the big £30 million buy and all this sort of stuff. And then this guy just came off the bench against Villa and started spraying balls, and everyone was a bit like, "Oh yeah, keep an eye on him."
That pass was different gravy, man.
Yeah, like we'll keep an eye on him. But it feels like that right now, mate. We're talking about Tanaka, Rothwell, Joseph, obviously, which we'll get onto. All this sort of stuff, and Ramazani sort of going under the radar maybe a little bit. Nonto obviously is being spoken about all the time. I think we've got an absolute player here, mate. He looks different gravy, like as in Premier League gravy for me. Yeah. He looks very, very, very good, doesn't he?
Yeah, do you know? I'll tell you one thing that Saeed told me when we signed him. According to some reports, he was rated alongside Rashford, but politics saw him moved out of the club. That's what he said. Now, obviously, Rashford's gone like this and now started to plateau. Maybe Ramazani's needed a little bit more time. But my point is, like, he was clearly very talented boy coming through the group at Manchester United. And
I thought it'd
yeah,
been,
man.
I thought it'd have been more like Ahmad's age, but yeah,
Because obviously he'd been at Charlton and then he went to Man United, then he's been out to Spain. So, in terms of, I think the key point you've mentioned is the tracking back. I think Danny Dean says different gravy count, 207. I love that.
You keep saying it and saying after you pause,
again. So Ramazani, wow, yeah, what an acquisition. I think, like you've mentioned, some maybe Premier League clubs might look at that and say, why haven't we picked him up on our radar? You know what I mean? Because he would have been easily gettable. I mean, we've paid next to nothing for him, really, comparative to what he's probably worth. He is quality, and his defensive prowess as well is great. Look what he did to O'Hare, for example, after O'Hare had beaten Aaronson, I think.
He bounced Aaronson off it, didn't he?
Yeah,
and then Ramazani's like, nah.
Yeah. I said on the watch line, I said, you've gone to do O'Hare, and he's still bounced you off Aaronson. Like, what's going on here? You've ran over, like, I'm going to bounce. And then he still ended up on the deck. But yeah, Ramazani. But again, everyone's saying he's better than Somerville. Relax, like there's still a long way to go yet. But yeah, he's quality, man. Really, really, really enjoy watching him play, mate.
Yeah, he's lovely. And that balance is interesting now, isn't it? Obviously, we saw Solomon coming on a little bit. I actually think it's underrated, sort of what he did for the goal. He was on the outside, chopped inside, stopped, and you almost expect him to invert as every single like Leeds winger does. And he actually went down the flank. It was actually really nice what he did. Obviously, Peru gets the ball. Hey Joe, I'll be honest. I was saying on the watch along, I was like, Peru, Aaronson, off. I was saying, get them off. And when he took Nonto off, my head was hot. But look, obviously he got it right. He got it right, didn't he? We scored from the corner. Peru stayed on. Joseph, a lovely, lovely weighted ball, which we know he's got in his locker. And Leeds went to a front two, didn't we? A 4-4-2. And Joseph getting his goal.
What a well taken goal, by the way.
Brilliant goal.
To hold off the
foul, apparently. Foul, apparently.
Who said that?
Oh, I've seen it online. Like we've
really?
seen Sheffield United. Yeah, foul. Apparently, he was holding on to Sidney Peck's top, and it should have been blown up for a foul. I mean, if that's
Definitely
a foul,
not.
I'm packing up and going.
He used his ass perfectly to just back into him, man. It was awesome. It was really good, and a well taken finish as well. And this is a team that hadn't conceded in 6. Cooper had only conceded 1 goal since he came in, and Leeds United scored 2, and the goal from Joseph's a beauty. Like you've mentioned, Solomon was involved, and then Pirro's pass was perfect. And we're seeing now different combinations and different formations later on in games, out of possession, in possession. So again, more tactical flexibility from the manager. And I think it's important. We started the season with Joseph Pirro's coming off the bench and scoring. That competition's really healthy because now Joseph's coming off the bench and impacting games and scoring. So it's a great headache for the manager to have. And, I put to you when I said this, and I got battered for it at the start of the season, but arguably, and you've mentioned this word a few times, we definitely have a better balanced squad this season than we did last season.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, I saw Archie and Somerville were on the same pitch, and everybody's like, "Oh, I bet they wish they were back at Leeds." They don't, guys. They're 2 Premier League clubs. They're absolutely fine. They're living life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Rutter as well. I'm buzzing for him, mate. He just looks like he's loving life, and it's nice. It's nice to see some of our products. It's a lot nicer when you've recruited like we have, and you got to look at that, Joe. And maybe that's a conversation as well for either tonight or whatever. But right now we were Somerville FC, I feel, for a lot of it. And Gilavodji coming in as well, Joe, this is a big tangent for me as well. But me and you've spoken about Cheku Kiarte, Francis Coquelin, someone like him coming in, for me, look, last season we sort of blew up. 3 wins in 11 league games. We got to the playoff final, of course, but we sort of stumbled our way there through the league season. Brilliant performance against Norwich, but it was a highlight amongst a lot of bad games, wasn't it? Someone like him coming in, just as a side note, I think adds mass experience to this side, and it feels like we're getting everything right. And I feel like the recruitment, a lot of it is right. You kept hold of Willian Yonta, who apparently wanted to leave, hated the club, wanted to follow Somerville and Rutter. He was really upset. I don't think that happened. I think Nonta would have probably thought to himself in the summer, Joe, I'm the main guy now. I'm the main guy. So we'll wait and see.
And he's doing that, Connor. He's being that main guy as well. And it's great to see. New contract, standing up. Mate.
He is. And you've got Ramazani on one side, Nonta on the other. The balance that those two have, like Somerville. The problem is, mate, and I said this, we discussed it. I felt against Hull, when Solomon was on the left, we were doing what we were doing with Somerville, and it was constantly down Solomon's side, and we were not varying our play. Won the game, but we weren't varying the play, and it was becoming predictable. Solomon against Coyle, Solomon against Coyle, Solomon against Coyle. That seemed the build-up. Now I feel like when Ramazani's coming in, Nonto's gone to the right, I feel like there's a crazy balance, mate, where we really vary it up. You'll see them switch sides as well. We saw it in the game against Sheffield United and Sunderland, and teams don't know how to deal with it. They do not know how to deal with it. And I feel the balance across the squad, like you've quite rightly said, is so much healthier now and is so much more quality. Who in the league can rotate two midfielders and get maybe better products?
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
And we have to take into consideration, and me and you have been heavily critical of him, but I'm so glad he's back. I'm glad, and I hope we also get longevity from Solomon as well. But James and Solomon off the bench is insane, bro.
Yeah. Would you be? Because I know you're a big, you were saying
advocate of it. Yeah.
And you were sort of saying if Solomon's back quality wise, and I completely get where you're coming from. Quality wise, you'd have him in that three, but I've learned this, Joe, probably since I've been like maybe a little bit more on Dan James's side. All of a sudden, I think it's not always how it works, is it, mate?
No.
You can't.
You don't know what you've got until it's gone, right? And I think that's been the thing with James. And listen, I was a big advocate of Solomon, and I just hope that he can stay fit, because as I've mentioned, he wouldn't be at Leeds if he didn't have these injury issues. But I wouldn't be changing anything right now, though, bro. No. Just let me say that. Like even Aaronson, for example, I think there's criticisms of his finishing and stuff, but what he does off the ball cannot go unnoticed. That's
true.
And can we play Pirro without Aaronson? I would argue maybe not, because Aaronson does a lot of the donkey work that probably goes like. I just think if you took Aaronson out, we'd be more bemoaning of Pirro, if that makes sense. We'd get back to that scenario of going, for fuck's sake, he's not doing anything, because Aaronson's doing all the donkey work at the side of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's weird with Brendan, isn't it, Joe? I sort of mentioned, I think since I think maybe since Cardiff, where I thought he had a really good game. Obviously got the assist for Peru and was brilliant in that game. So maybe Coventry onwards, Norwich, Sunderland, and the other night, maybe he's overthinking things a little bit. Maybe he needs to slow down a little bit more. Like we saw Brendan before, didn't we, in the Premier League, where sometimes you just wanted him to get his head up, slow down a little bit. You've got a little bit more time than you think. I feel he's just rushing things a little bit, and he's sort of maybe going back to those old tendencies. I don't know if you agree with that.
I mean, when it comes to his finishing, I would argue, I think everything else, mate, is okay, personally. But his finishing needs work. I think the mad thing is, if he scores that goal against Portsmouth, he's probably got a lot more goals than he's got now. He's such a confidence player, I feel. He's such a confidence player. Just needs to score a couple. But there's a lot of people ready to pull him out of the side, and I think it's very knee-jerk and all this sort of stuff. I think for him to be able to come away from his game in America and give us as many minutes as done. And the thing is as well, we don't get to see this, but I bet I can guarantee that in terms of running stats, he's probably the highest in the squad. It won't surprise me. Do you know what I mean? And he's a manager's dream in that perspective. And Lockie made a fantastic point on my show yesterday. He just hopes that the manager doesn't overuse him because of that. Because we saw it under Jesse, and he is playing a hell of a lot of football at Leeds because he does so much donkey work, so much off the ball work. So you have to take. So it will be interesting to see if he's taken out. Who takes that role as the 10? You know, could we see Pirot drop back there and see Joseph in the 9? Could we see one of Solomon or Nonto going there? So it will be interesting because I still think it's a position that if he isn't going to use a Solomon or a Nonto there, that still needs addressing in January as another option because Aaronson, I rate him. I thought it would be a success. And maybe it's not a success yet, but it's definitely on its way there. But he still needs some support in there because 46 games plus your internationals, it's a hell of a lot of football, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm probably. I mean, I get the knee jerk thing, but I'm probably. I mean, I'd have kept him in for the Norwich game. I wasn't so sure I'd have kept him in for the Sunderland game. But you know what I'm like, John. I'm a big advocate of. But I've mentioned balance of Ramazani and Nonto, but I'm also very much leaning towards Nonto still being that 10. I just love him in the 10. I think he's brilliant in there, and he affects games.
Would you do as much off the ball stuff though as Aaronson? Do you think that's the problem in it? It's a trade off,
and maybe that's why I've been so heavy on Joseph to start up top as well, because maybe he gives you that sort of press from the front that obviously Aaronson gives when Peru's in there, you know. But yeah, I mean, and obviously Joe, you're putting James in, aren't you, on that right hand side? Who is a pressing machine as well, so he's still going to have a lot of that. So I think we've got options there, which is good. But yeah, I don't know what it is with him now. And you're right, maybe that rest might aid him a little bit, but I don't think he's going to rest him. I think he likes him a lot. I think he really does like him. Should we move on to Jayden Bogle? I'll let you talk on him, mate.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm just impressed so much with the unit, i.e. the back four. To be honest, I think they're so impressive. I mean, I don't think there's ever been historically a bigger redemption arc than Junior Firpo.
We can all hands up. Can all
100%.
say 100%. I didn't think he was going to be anywhere near good enough, even in the Championship.
No.
I didn't think.
And I'd give him a new deal, by the way. I don't care because I still think he could do it to a sufficient level at the bottom end of the Premier League, which is where we'll be. So yeah, I'd give him a new deal for that for sure.
Just touching on him, but let's touch on him before getting to Bogle. What's happened? Like what is it? Is it just simple fact we've gone down a level and he's been able to do what so many other players have done in our team whilst playing Premier League level with us? You know, Somerville, Rutter, Dan James, etc. They've just been elevated by the standard. Or do you think there's been genuine improvements and developments in his game? And if so, where do you think they are?
I think structure plays a massive part, right? He's playing as a wing back, whereas he didn't really. I mean, listen, as much as I love the man, but we had more holes than a sponge, didn't we, in the Bielsa? Let's be honest. It's hard to be a defender in a Bielsa system. Let's be honest.
I think we found out when he pretty much said in the press conference he doesn't work on defending set pieces.
I mean, Uruguay are struggling now, and I think they're without Araujo. Is it Araujo, the right back at Bas? Yeah. They're missing him, and he helps them. So we know defensively you can be very porous under Bielsa. Then we can talk about Marsh, and he wants you to play so centrally, and Firpo, But do I think he's improved? I would say so. Listen. There's a lot of critics of Daniel, but I think he's brought a lot of players' games on, you know. So Firpo would fall into that bracket as well. Timing has to, as in longevity, English game. That's a great point that John makes as well. Staying fit. There was a time where I didn't think he wanted to be fit. Do you know what I mean? I was like, you don't want to be here, you're turning it in. And now look at him. I would argue he's been our most consistent performer since
captain material as well, it feels like.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think he's one of the elder statesmen. I mean, although maybe his reaction to the Melier is the reason why he's not the captain.
I love that, mate.
I get it.
I'd make him captain.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm saying though? From a manager's perspective, he probably wants the captain to put his arm around the keeper, not be like fucking no bed.
Maybe that's why I've never been captain.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, just exceptional. But back to Jayden Bogle. Can I just pick up on something that's just been said?
Yeah.
There needs to be a counterpoint because Connor and Joe know too. Sean, let me just say to you, right? We would have a counterpoint if points were made decent. Some of your points that you have made during this video that I've tried so hard to not address are are nonsensical, bro. Like some of the stuff that you've been saying in the chat is insane.
And I think a lot of this is more like counterpoint with Joe and my chat most weeks. Anyway.
Let me just remind everyone, right, for Sean Ely. Sean Ely wanted David Moyes in, right, just only 2 weeks ago. So do not listen to a word that Irishman says, all right? So the fact, like some of the stuff you've been saying, bro, is mental. And we will chat. Because when you come on the fans' phone in, you never bring these crazy points. Because if you did, I'd fucking go through you with the dose of salt on live. But you just do it in chat. Anyway. But we can't look, I know the show's called Counterpoint, right? But we're not just going to disagree if there's nothing to disagree on. We've just had arguably the best performance of the season. We can come on here and create a false narrative if you want, and I'll say that Rothwell's still shit, when I can just hold my hands up and say, no, I was wrong. Do you know what I mean? So there you go. Anyway, yeah, Jayden Bogle, I think maybe, I know I can only speak for myself. I think maybe I let the Sheffield United fans get in my head about his defending and probably criticised it more than it needed to be.
Stop talking to Hal, mate. Don't listen to him.
It's not even Hal, bro. It was a guy. Lee messaged me. Who's another guy who's also I've not heard of. I heard of him about 4 times in the run up to the game.
Is Lee from the old Leeds TV days? Who's that Sheffield United fan who used to get in contact with us?
Yeah, that's him.
Is that Lee?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. I've still got him on Facebook. Yeah, that's him. Big up, by the way. He's had a few issues. He's had some stuff going on. So if you're watching Lee, I hope you're well. But yeah, he's been very quiet since the result, of course. But yeah, Jayden Bogle, quality. Yeah. I thought he was great going forward. It was great to see him going mental when we scored as well, because he was getting booed a lot as well. So I was thinking, all right, okay, if this is how you're going to treat him, and he loved it. So to be honest, I'm dying for him to just pull this out, mate. Just ironically, I want him to do it at some point.
Against Derby, it's got to be Derby.
Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, look, I think what a signing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think since Sheffield Wednesday, where he had that probably his best performance of the season. Do you know what he is, Joe? It feels like to me he's a bit of a big game player as well. You know, he comes into a lot of these games. I thought Norwich he was really good. Sunderland he was brilliant. Sheffield United good. So yeah, Sheffield Wednesday obviously he's got a bit of needle there. It feels like when he's got a bit of needle, maybe he elevates his game even more. And he was begging to score one, and that's how good we were. I guess that's how good we were, Joe. It's very much like Jayden, and it's not like it was a rout, but it was very much like, you know, you even getting Jayden Bogle and Junior Firpo trying to get on the end of things, and they were almost becoming sort of dangers in themselves, weren't they? And yeah, I don't know, man. I think to myself, it's just a really good scenario to have. I mean, let's touch on Joseph and Peru as well. I know you've mentioned the goals and stuff. I think when Joseph came on, shit shock horror. Connor thinks he was really good, but he was really good. Just Peru overall. I think he had a good game. I think he was drawing Suter out. Sometimes, Joe, I'll be honest with you, mate, when he blazed that ball over the bar when it was 0-0 and he had 48 touches, I nearly smacked up my camera. But overall, mate, I thought he sort of. I think what we need to learn, you know, we're doing those lovely intricate passes, Joe, in the middle of the pitch, and it's one touch. It's like we're rondoing, and then it gets to Perot, and he's just not of that ilk, is he? He just takes his time. Honestly,
his touch is pretty woeful in it.
If he was any more laid back, he'd be horizontal, mate.
He looks stoned. He looks stoned, bro.
Just takes his time, doesn't he?
Aye. But yeah, look, his touch isn't the best. But I think again, if you want the ball to drop to anybody, it's probably him, isn't it? In this squad, and I don't know about you, mate, but we're seeing a number 9 Pirro now. Are we getting the Pirro that we thought we were getting? I would argue yes, you know. And like you say, I think the important thing is having both that can come off the off the bench and impact the game. There's a real sense of competition there, because what I can say for the seasons before this, we had Bamford and not really anyone else, and there was no competition. And we always used to get the best out of Bamford when he had competition, coincidentally. Yeah, but now he can't even get on the pitch, which is a positive, by the way. Let me just say that. So, I feel almost bad saying that, but it is. Do you know what I mean? So I think we've got a player on the rise that could go to the top if he continues to progress and play well, and could end up being Spain's number 9. You know,
the neutrals seem to think he's class as well.
Yeah,
which is normally a good sign.
He's top notch, and we finally now starting to see. And if we're being honest, in terms of numbers, Pirro still had a great season last season. He got 14 goals in his opening.
My dad says the same thing. Yeah,
it's we're probably overcritical. You know, had we gone up, we wouldn't even be bothered about it. But I think because we didn't, we're probably more critical. But yeah, look, to have them two both scoring goals, I mean, there's not many that can chat. If we're honest, like, Leeds have to win the league. Leeds have to go up, because squad. When we're talking about them two, we're talking about 4 midfielders. You know, we've had to. And any other team, let's take Sheffield United for example. If they got injuries to Hamer and O'Hare till the turn of the year, they'd be fucked, bro.
Yeah,
they'd be knackered.
Yeah,
Leeds United have then brought Rothwell and Tanaka in, and we look better.
Mm.
So the only issue I worry about is centre-back. We'd have a car crash if they got a knock. But outside of that, everywhere else, you know, we're talking Schmidt's not getting a running. Byram could still do a job. You got James and Solomon that are not. So everywhere. So again,
I'm maybe a little bit disappointed with that, Joe. Maybe a little bit
the centre-backs.
No, with Byram coming on ahead of Schmidt. You know,
right, okay.
A little bit. I just think, you know, we want to see him get a few minutes, don't we? Look, we know the situation with Byram. Lovely utility player at this level, of course, but come on, let's see. We all want to see a little bit of Schmidt.
He's a manager's son, isn't he, though? He's a manager's son. I think that's what they wind him up. I think he's definitely one of his favourites. And he's
Championship's Milner.
Yeah, he's dependable, isn't he? He's dependable. So, but we don't see what's going on in training. But I was going to say if we've got any cup games, but we aren't till January, have we? Yeah. FA Cup third round, get knocked out. I don't mind. Fuck it. So how's Smith going to get in? What I'd like to see, Connor, maybe not yet because we're still in the early stages of the season, but you can see he trusts the squad more now. You can see that it's more balanced and we've got a better depth. I would like to see in some games him change it just to make sure players are fresh. Because you've got 2 strikers scoring goals, you've got 4 amazing wingers. Obviously, we can't change midfield at the minute, but you have got Schmidt, you have got Byram, you have got players that you. I love that picture there. Was that Steve McDonald? Is that Steve McDonald?
It is. Do you remember his dad? Steve McDonald's dad was a nutter.
Jim McDonald, yeah, man.
Jim McDonald, yeah, don't fuck Jim McDonald.
Les.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, mate. We'll leave it there. Guys, on all platforms, there's 1,100 of you in the building. Make sure you slap a like on the video, leave a comment as well. Head on over to Joe's channel, everybody. You know the drill. Joe's going to be back on this evening. We're going from 6. It's the debrief. We're going to be focusing a little bit more on the season overall. We're going to be speaking on expectations, and we're going to be speaking about the Watford game as well with Leeds United facing, I think it's like 3 games in 8 days from calculations, I think. So it's a busy period. Joe, absolute pleasure, mate, and we'll see you later on. Cheers, guys.